Welcome to On Loving Men's Love Logs, the first installment, The Power of Friendship, featuring Wade Davis II and Darnell L. Moore. My name is Mark. I am the creator or founder of On Loving Men, a multi-social media platform that aims to enhance the stories of same-gender loving men and what our love looks like through various social campaigns. Love Logs will be a monthly, once-a-month video long-form interview featuring various men from across various disciplines and backgrounds. And today I have the distinct honor of the first installment, The Power of Friendship, featuring Wade and Darnell, two extraordinary possibility men in my life and the lives of many across the nation and even across the globe. So before we get started, I want to introduce to you Wade Davis II, who currently serves as the Executive Director of You Can Play. Wade is a nationally recognized speaker, advocate, writer, and educator, a former NFL athlete who played for the Tennessee Titans, Washington Redskins, and Seattle Seahawks, as well as two different teams within NFL Europe. After retiring, Wade owned a media business through a partnership with the New York Times called In Motion Media. Currently, Wade teaches at Promise Youth how to define success for themselves and to thrive in society. His writings and interviews have appeared in the LA Times, the Huffington Post, New York Times, The Advocate, Outsports, TheGrill.com, and other media outlets, including President Barack Obama's White House blog. He has appeared on NPR, MSNBC, BBC, CNN, and BET. Wade served as an LGBT surrogate for President Obama during the 2012 election. Also, Wade is a board member of You Can Play and Gleason's Gay, Lesbian, Straight Educational Network Sports Advisory Board. He was invited to speak at the International AIDS Conference in Washington, D.C. in 2012 and is currently partnering with the Minority AIDS Institute. He was named number 46 on the Route 100 list of Black influencers and achievers and was voted as one of the 50 Black LGBT adults that Black youth should know in 2012. Wade received his BA in Business Administration from Weber State University in 2000, and then once again, he currently serves as the Executive Director of You Can Play. And his friend, Darnell L. Moore, is an educator and writer. Darnell has served in fields of education and youth development for more than a decade. He began his teaching career as an urban education teaching intern with Kids Corp in Newark, New Jersey in 1999. Also, he worked as an after-school and homeschool instructor at Urban Promise, Incorporated, and an 8th grade teacher at the San Miguel School in Camden. Darnell has served within the education and nonprofit field in administrative capacities as well. He was a therapist and program director of a youth transitional living program at the Center for Family Services in Camden. He went on to serve as the principal of Integrative Concepts Consulting Group, project evaluator at the Institute for Community Learning in New York City, director of strategic initiatives at the United Way of Essex and West Hudson, and associate director of the North Schools Research Collaborative, a partnership between Rutgers, the State University of New Jersey, and Newark Public Schools. Darnell is also a nationally recognized advocate and speaker and diversity consultant and trainer. He has served on the boards of the Governing Institute of New Jersey Women's AIDS Network, Newark Legacy Charter School, Stop Shooting Incorporated, Newark Essex County Pride Coalition, and the Center for Lesbian and Gay Studies at the City University of New York. He was appointed to the inaugural chair of the City of Newark LGBTQ Advisory Concerns Commission by Mayor Cory A. Booker and served as the co-chair of the Queer Newark Oral History Initiative. He has given speeches and provided trainings at universities and community-based organizations around the world. Darnell was a recipient of the Tony Campolo Fellowship at Eastern University from 2001 to 2004, and the 2009 Jan Herman Banker Award from the Circle of Friends, the 2012 American Conference on Diversity's Humanitarian Award, and the 2013 New Jersey Performing Arts Center's Visionary of the Future Award, and the Rutgers University's LGBTQ Diversity Resource Center's 2012 Outstanding Academic Leadership Award, and the 2012 Episcopal Diocese of Newark's Louis Crew Award. He received a BA in Social and Behavioral Science from Seton Hall University, and an MA in Clinical Counseling from Eastern University, and an MA in Theological Studies from Princeton Theological Seminary. So please join me in welcoming Darnell and Wade. Hey y'all, thanks for being here.
How are you doing, Mark? Thank you for having me on. Hi, Mark.
I'm doing well, thank you. Hey, Darnell.
Hi.
That was a mouthful, y'all. I was like trying to read that and not mess up.
I'm
All right,
like,
cool. So,
that's the longest bio ever.
amen. It's okay. I'm used to speaking now, so it's not too bad. So I want to say thank you so much for being here. I know you both are extremely busy. I know, Wade, you're constantly traveling a lot these days. So thank you for making time out of your busy schedules to meet with me today. And I guess I kind of want to start off, Wade, just kind of asking you, or either one of you can say this, how did you two meet? How did this friendship come about?
I think I should let Darnell tell this story, actually.
I have to tell it. You're good. Tell it. You tell the story.
So I took a job at the Hedrick Martin Institute, and Hedrick Martin is a space that services LGBTQ young people from the age of 14 to 24. And when I first started working there, I used to dress up in like a suit and tie, or I wore ties often. And Darnell told me that he thought I was a preacher, and he thought I was this heterosexual guy who was coming to work there to kind of get into heaven. And he did not like me all the way when he first met me. And then when he found out I was an athlete, he definitely gave me a lot of shade. But I'm persistent, so like there was something very magnetic about D. So I wanted to really be his friend, And I didn't have a lot of friends in New York City who were African American, if I'm being frank. Just his spirit has always been something that's really drawn me to him. So we started going to lunch every day for, I would say, probably the first like 2 to 3 months, and our friendship just blossomed.
Yep, that's about right.
Yeah, so obviously for Darnell, the connection was not instant. It took you a while to warm up to him. And how did this unlikely pairing come about? I mean, Wade, you're an athlete, not to be stereotypical, but you're an athlete, and Darnell, you're more of an intellectual kind of, you know, openly queer man of color. And so, like, how did this unlikely pairing come about? And Darnell obviously wasn't instant for you, but what was a moment when you realized this is someone I can be friends with?
I guess I should say it's precisely because we are different that our friendship really grew in the way that it did. Um, there's this idea that black men, that we're this monolithic bunch, we're all the same, that men of color, that men period. And I think Wade and I, our friendship demonstrates that we have a lot of similarities, but we're quite different. Wade has, I guess, for me. So let me just correct Wade for a second. I didn't dislike him.
Fine.
I was just skeptical. But
You were quoted as not liking him, by the way. I did my research at first.
Thank you.
I was so drawn to his connection. He has such a wonderful connection with the young people that he worked with, and I was drawn to that. And I was like, I've never met somebody so caring. At least in that short span of time where I was working at this organization, and he had a deep love for the young people, and that's really what attracted me to him. Here is a person who has every right, probably, to be, full, filling himself, and he's done a lot and accomplished so much, but he's so humble. But he's so humble, and you would never know that. That's the thing that really is one of his gifts, his humility. And I fell in love with his soul, with his spirit, and we went to lunch more than 2 to 3 months. It was like 6 months. We would go to lunch every single day, and I would get mad when we missed days when I couldn't sit down with him. I would have a temper tantrum, and before you know it, we figured out that we had some shared passions, and we literally would be at a lunch table talking about how we could work together, and it happened. A lot of things. Much before we started and co-founded You Belong, we were doing speaking engagements together. And it's remarkable. It was remarkable to do. I learned so much, and it felt good to have somebody by your side who cares just as much as you do about the things that you care about, and doing this work together.
Yeah, and so you mentioned You Belong, which is a co-founded initiative between you, Wade, and Darnell. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, this initiative stemmed from your friendship, and so these conversations and these working experiences you guys were all having together really gave birth to You Belong. And so What was the defining moment when you made a decision that together you would create You Belong?
Do you remember exactly where we were, Wade? What happened?
I know that we were typically inside of a Wendy's, like we went to Wendy's, right?
I love you.
Yes, right. Like we would just have a lot of conversations about our passions, right? And Darnell has, even to this day, he really pushes me to really expand the way that I see the world. I was a Southern boy. I grew up, I would say, pretty a conservative, and Darnell would always be like, think about it this way and come back to me. Think about it this way. Think about it this way. And I'd be like, man, like he's really pissing me off, because like I was really happy to be very, I would say, to look at the world through a very narrow lens. It was very comfortable, right? And Darnell, he pushed me to be uncomfortable. And one of the things I've learned from him is that like to sit in spaces of uncomfortableness really forces you to grow. So it was through these uncomfortable conversations that we really learned that our passions was like, how do we combine things that we're passionate about? Like, right, I'm passionate about sports and young people. He's passionate about young people and social justice work, right? And I got him inspired around sports. He got me inspired around social justice, and we were like, look, like there's an opportunity here. How do we make this work? And we were talking about. I think I mentioned one day that I went to like a sports camp, like a football camp, and he was like, what if we did a camp that not only had sports but also had workshops on social justice and health and wellness and racial justice and leadership and all these amazing things. And I was like, wow, that's really a brilliant way to bring both of our like really strong skill sets together. And we're also intentional about knowing that most of the young people who would attend these camps won't go pro. And Darnell's always been, I would say, like hell-bent on making sure that our young people leave these spaces better than they got there, but also are able to advocate for themselves in their community, right? So that was something that I was like, wow, like this is a powerful opportunity for us to really change not only the young people who we deal with at the camps, but to change ourselves. And I think that when I think about to our first camp, like I was changed more than the young people were.
And as you know, so it's hard to maintain friendships, it seems like, within the queer, same-gender loving men community to begin with, for a variety of reasons. But you add this aspect of business partnership as well, as on top of being friends, right? So then how did you all, was there ever a discussion about how you would maintain your personal relationship while managing a business relationship? Because it's very different dynamics there. So how did you discuss it? Did you discuss it? And if so, what was that discussion like? And what did it look like?
You know what's funny? Like, so Wade and I really ever argue. We've never had an argument, which is sort of interesting to me, right? Like you would think, we have these multiple sort of relationships that we would have had an argument or something, but we haven't. I get pissed off, but he is so calm. He knows how to diffuse. He knows how to like get on my good side all the time and make me feel better. That's probably why we don't argue. But I don't know. This friendship is really a gift. It's an easy friendship, and we don't have a problem talking about anything. I think when we were developing the business, we had a very open conversation about what the structure of that would look like. Wade is always ensuring that my interests and the things that I care about are always on the table. Yeah, I have to say, this is sort of like, I've never really experienced a friendship / business relationship in this way. It's a gift. It's a gift. And wait, did we ever have like a sit-down conversation about what this? I don't think we did that, right?
We had, I would say, one serious discussion about it at Starbucks very early on when like we came up with kind of the business plan and whatnot. But I also think that there's 3 really big things that makes our relationship work. One is a great amount of respect for each other. I probably only had 3 or 4 other friendships where the respect factor is so great. Secondly is we communicate like brothers, like there's not a discussion that we can't have, and even though Darnell is right, like we've never had like a fight or anything like that, but we do have discussions where we may not agree, but because that's rooted in respect, you know, we really listen to each other, and you know, and I think that that's really what works. But the third thing, and probably most important, is that we really love each other. You know, like I can tell just by his tone of voice on the phone what he needs from me. You know, I can tell if he's tired, he needs me to take up more of the workload, or he knows if I'm busy to say, okay, like you can't do as much now, I'm gonna take care of that later. And I would say also, unlike, and Darnell and I have a discussion about friendships often, is that, you know, there is no jealousy. Like I actually am more affirmed by just being a witness to his brilliance, you know, to his success, you know, and it is really wonderful for me to see him take his rightful place in this world, you know, not only as a man, not only as a black man, not only as a queer man, but just as a human being. I mean, and Darnell really has a deep, passionate love for the work that he does, but for humanity. And for me to mirror that, and for me to be a reflection of that, is just truly a blessing.
See, now do you see why it's like, do you see why it's easy to love this man?
Yeah. Well, I think, you know, to your credit, you both are public speakers, right? So you both know how to be charming and engage in that conversation. But this is why I wanted to feature the two of you, because it's so rare that you see two men of color, two same-gender loving men of color, who do the work you both do, working so closely and collaboratively in a way that seems really healthy on the outside. And based on what you all are saying today, it's really healthy on the inside as well. And that's really, I think, the power of your friendship exists within the abilities to work across multiple levels.
Well, I was going to say, like, you know, look, sometimes I don't want to generalize and say that friendships don't exist. You know, I think that I know I'm surrounded by a community of folk. But this is something really special, particularly because our friendship has so many layers. I think you did hit something right. I didn't really think about how wonderful it is to be friends, to be brothers, but also to run a business, which could be really, really hard given if you don't have the type of foundation for something like that to flourish. And legitimately, like, you know, I could give the video answer and say, oh yeah, everything is perfect. It feels exactly what it looks like on the surface, but the reality is everything really does. It works very, very well. And I think Wade is right. We care about each other. And we try to live the words that we preach and speak about. Like that love thing is serious, right? Radical love is not just something we want to theorize. It's something that we try to live and to sort of show each other.
No, and I think that's great. And I think this is partially why I feel like the need for unloving men and why I wanted to create these spaces, because we don't hear this enough. Like, we're not seeing this on MTV or VH1 or Logo. You know, like, we're not seeing these kind of conversations. And so what can we do as a community to really push these kind of stories out there? So thank you again for doing this. Darnell, I'll go to Wade for this one. Wade, was there a moment when you knew for sure, without a doubt, that Darnell was the man that you had to have a friendship with forever? Like, what was that moment like for you when you realized, wow, this man is special to me and I need to have him in my life?
So there are multiple moments that I can think of, right? And I'll say this about Darnell, like, he amazes me. I would say at least once a week he'll do something, right? And it happened more often when we worked together, you know, where I would go, wow, like, I am truly blessed to have this man in my life, right? And I'll be very, very frank, right? So I used to really, wow, I'm gonna say this on air, right? I didn't have a lot of black male friendships in my life besides athletes, you know, but besides my football friends. And when I moved to New York City, I moved to the to the Upper East Side, right? So I didn't have, the only black male friendship that I had were straight guys. So Darnell was really my first black gay male friend, right? And we would have these really serious, intense conversations about what does it mean for black men to love black men. And Darnell would introduce me to all these amazing writers, right? From Essex Hempfield to Audre Lorde to all these people who I had never even heard of. You know what I mean? Like, when I took a job at Hedrick Martin, I had never worked with LGBTQ youth. I really didn't even know what that acronym meant. I dealt with so much self-hatred, you know, and like I didn't really want to talk about it, you know, because like just, and even now there's still shame around me, right? But to see the way that Darnell loved him, and also I would say like almost radically or ferociously loved other black gay men, even when they hurt him. You know, like Darnell has had a lot of friends in his life that have wronged him, you know, and I'll be like, you gotta stop being this person's friend. And Darnell like, no, no, no. Like I'm gonna keep giving this person a chance because if I don't, who else will, right? And those were really the blinding moments of me like thinking like, wow, like what does it mean for him to not pour a cup of resentment for someone else, right? And like it was those moments when I saw him like really love other gay men almost to a fault, like almost, and sometimes I'm like, man, you're hurting yourself by still forgiving these men. And I was like, you know what, if he can do that for me, someone who he's never even really even known for that long, and really invite me in, not to his house, not into his friendship circle, but into his heart. Like he embraced me out of the gate, and he didn't have to. So when I really felt that, wow, like this man really loves me, you know, and he's gonna tell me like it is, like whether I want to hear it or not. Like let me not state clearly that Darnell will read me for filth if I'm in the wrong. I mean, there's no question, right? But he can do it in a way where he's like, I just read your ass, but you know I love you, right? And like just those moments would happen so often when we first met that I was like, man, like I'm blessed to have this man in my life.
Shut up, Wade.
I'm like, damn, I'm not surprised. It's like my segment is all emotional. It's not even, you're not even talking about me. Darnell, I'm gonna ask you the same question. No pressure to live up to his response. But what was the moment? Damn, Wade, I have make spot. Darnell, what was the moment for you when you knew Wade had to be a man that you maintained a friendship with? And what was that moment for you? I hate you, Wade.
There were many. There were many. I'm particularly thinking about. Yeah, I don't even know where to begin. Wade came into my life at a very particular time when I needed him. I didn't know I needed him, and I know this is why I know that our friendship is, I'm going to say divine. It was providential. Like the universe sent him my way. I needed him to self, all of me. I tell him everything. That's not a thing, and he knows this. I can tell him like the most, like the worst thing, but you know, and he sits there in front of me and is embracing me and looking at me with love. And there are many moments that I've had like that where I had no one to turn to, literally, and he was on the other side. The one moment that comes to mind are the moments where we traveled, and he dealt with my snoring through the night. He hates snoring. And I can just remember us sitting up and just talking. Look at him in the just sitting up talking, and him just always affirming me. I'm a caregiver, and it's really hard for me to receive care. And here is somebody that is like, that's what he does. He nurtures. And I guess the one moment we were driving and talking in Chicago, wait, do you remember? we were in the middle of our You Belong camp there, and it was a crazy, 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 crazy weekend. Are you laughing? And we had like a heart-to-heart on the highway, and I said to him like the qualities that he has, right? Like there are so many. His ability to just always think about others' feelings and to center on other people's feelings, his ability to make space for us in his life. He goes out of his way, like literally, if I need anything, he's by my side. There's not a secret I can withhold. Like, this is a loving brother. He doesn't get mad at me. And that moment, we were in the car, we had a heart-to-heart, and I just looked at him like, I love this man. I legitimately love him. Like, I told him one time I wanted to take all the qualities that he has and put them into like my husband when I get one. But he's just at that moment for me. Yeah, I thought like this is someone who my life would be drastically different if he wasn't in it. It would be less joyful. It wouldn't be as full. And he's opened up. He helped me. I'm like a different person than I was before I met him, and I think he sees that. Like I legitimately have grown, and it has a lot to do with him being in my life. Um, and I don't know what I would do without him around. Like that's my homie.
I do get mad at him. The only time I ever get mad at Darnell, really mad at him, is when he is dating someone.
Oh
Then,
God.
yeah, I want to tell the real tea. When he's
Where's the
dating
shade
someone,
stone? Yellow shade stone coming.
no, it's no shade. It's no shade. When he's dating someone that makes him feel unsafe, and he allows them to still be in his life. That is the only time I am really mad at him, because he knows that I will tear it down if someone. So when he does that, I get upset, because then he puts my friend at risk, right? So that is the only time that I've ever really like had to tell him, say, hey, don't do that to us. Like don't make me feel as if I gotta tear it down, and also that and for you to just love yourself enough to not put yourself in a type of situation.
Did he really just go there? You see how he just put my business all out?
So, on that note, let me bring it back to focus.
But you know what though? I will say this. I will say that like I am a much different person, and I'm a different person in terms of even my relationships. I've grown again. I've grown so much, and I have to give Wade credit. I tend to not like his advice because he comes down on me like a big brother. But it's good. He's always telling the truth, and I can't stand it because I'm like,
Isn't that
I
crazy?
have to go back and tell him he was right.
Right, and so I think one of the questions I had that I wanted to ask, and I think you all have been answering it throughout your various responses. What is the most powerful aspect of your friendship? But I feel like the power of your friendship exists in your honesty with each other and your ability to be vulnerable and to be seen. I mean, again, these are not narratives that we're hearing, and so how do you, Wade, because he said you're so honest, how do you always allow yourself to exist in that place of honesty when you know he doesn't want to hear the truth all the time?
Well, I think I don't have fear that he's going to stop being my friend. I think that's a big part of it, But also, I know that he knows that I truly love him. I mean, like I love Darnell like more than a brother. Like he's a part of me. The person that I am today as a social justice worker, as a leader, as a lover, as a friend, as a partner, a lot of that has to do with him. Like I have friends who have told me like I don't even recognize you anymore. And when your friends who you've known since high school can tell you that, and you know that, and I know that Darnell plays a huge role in that. That's a gift. He's giving me a gift, right? But also, I love him enough to be honest with him, and he's probably mad at me a little bit for saying that, but he knows that whenever he does something that could potentially take him from me, I have to be honest with him. I'm like, no, like don't do that to us, man. But the honesty is that like we really started out our friendship based in honesty, and there was never any bullshit or pretense around it. I think we grew up similarly in a certain way, like as far as like we both were like I was an athlete, but I was still an awkward kid. He was a book kid, but he was still awkward, and we like shared stories from from our childhood, and we were very, very vulnerable in the beginning, and you have to trust someone in order to be vulnerable, but also being honest is a point of vulnerability as well. So I think it was just like, hey, this is my brother. I got to be honest with him, because if I'm not, who is?
And so I guess, and that's a great point, if you're not honest, then who will be? And so I guess, Darnell, my question to you is, why do you think the media representation of same-gender loving men and our friendships seem to be so polarized and so like almost non-existent, especially for men of color? Why do you think that is?
mean, love and community don't provide ratings. um, and I know a lot. I know a lot of brothers, queer brothers, who are who have really wonderful friendships. Wade and I are also part of a collective called Brothers Writing to Live. That's a body of brothers who are cis and trans men, straight, gay, indifferent, right? So I do think that there are a lack of representation of male friendships overall that we see within mass media, but that's because that stuff doesn't sell, right? I mean, when you think about something like love, we talk about love right now, even amongst folk who call themselves progressive, radicals, leftists, love is not seen as sort of a radical political tool. And it makes sense why. Who wants folk to build community when the work of capitalism is to make us to bring about disconnection? That's not the point of capitalism. Capitalism is not about community building. It's about separation. It's about keeping us, So I don't know. I don't think that it's one of those things that sells, quote unquote. It isn't the thing that people want to see. We want to see folk read each other. And we do that. You can have banter, you can have fun, but we exist in what I call like a shade culture. Cultures where for some reason it's antagonism is the thing, is the way to be, like antagonistic. And I'm interested in like how can we build whole, healthy, loving friendship with and have fun and do all that stuff without tearing each other down. And that is the sort of spirit of the time, and that's not particular to queer folk. We exist in the West. We exist in the United States. This is an antagonistic space anyway. And that worked itself out, I think, in terms of our relationships.
I mean, absolutely. And I think, again, and this is why I felt the need to create Unloving Men, because it's like we have to combat cultural norms, right? What does it mean to live in America and the shade culture you made reference to, but also to be gay or same-gender loving. And also to be men of color, right? We as men of color are not taught to be vulnerable or open with our emotions. Like, I've never seen, until this moment, two men just show so much love for each other in a way that was not sexualized or fetishized or for personal gain, right? But it was like really genuine and sincere. And that's not commonplace, it seems like. And so thank you for sharing that. I think it's really important that people hear that. So we know you both are really busy based on your bios and so much more. How do you maintain time to nurture your friendship and to that self-care that your relationship requires?
Let me start, because I am probably the one. This is where I can go. Now I can get on Wade. No, so I find myself, I'm really needy, and Wade has helped me to think about my neediness in a different way. Before, I would go to him and go, I'm so damn needy, I need to change. But now I understand, like, that's what humanity, like, we have needs as human beings, all of us. Need is not a bad thing. And I own my neediness. I love it, because when I'm able to articulate what my needs are, it can give the framework to others on how I ought to be, to how they can get to me. But I'll say this, like now, like our schedules are pretty busy, right? So we don't get to see each other as much. And I find myself, because I'm like, I will text him and be like, listen, if you don't answer this phone, when I call the next time, it's going to be trouble. So I have to sort of, it's work. Friendship is work, and relationship is work. Love is work, right? Baldwin called love a battle. And it doesn't come if you don't put the energy into it to build something. So I don't want to sit here and act like it's easy. No, we have to work. There are days where we don't talk. There are days where we have business things to do, and we miss meetings. But we have to work and to continue to sort of make sure that our communication is on point. And I'm just not afraid to tell him when I need to talk to him. Wade, I miss you. I need you to pick up your phone. I need you, like, now, and I say that to him, and I expect him, because if you don't, I'm gonna get him to respond in kind.
I'll say I think I get to cheat a little bit, because as an athlete, right, like I'm used to having a lot of male friendships, I can think back to Little League. Like my friends that I played Little League football with are still my friends now. You know, they weren't queer men, but I'm used to having close friendships with men. So, like I said, I only have two other friendships that are at the level of myself and Darnell. But it was never an uncomfortableness for me to tell Darnell that I love you. And it was just something that was in my heart, so I said it. And yes, our friendship, since we stopped working together, it does take more work for us to see each other. And we still talk on the phone a lot. And if either one of us are going through something, he's the first person who I call. And I really feel blessed to have another black gay male friend that I've never had this type of friendship before. So I can call and say, hey, like, I'm dating this guy and I haven't bottomed in a week or in a couple months or whatever, so like I don't know how to feel about it, right? Just like stuff like that, but who else am I gonna talk to about it but Darnell, right? And it's just really a beautiful space to be in, and y'all laughing, but I'm serious. Like that's something that's very like for me to be able to call someone and be able to have that discussion with, right? Or to be like, hey, like I'm going out with a black guy for the first time in like years and years and years and X, Y, and Z, so those types of relationships and friendships I didn't have before, and to be able to have them with Darnell, but to also know that we cannot go 2 weeks without speaking. And he'll text me and say, you better call me today. And when I call him, he'll read me for about the first two minutes. But then after that, it's like riding a bike. Like he's not going to harbor any resentment. He knows that I'm not trying to not talk to him. He's like, okay, I know you heard me. Do better. And now let's go back to the normal. And that's really a beautiful thing because I have a couple other friendships who are the same way. Like I'll go a week without talking to them. They'll read me down and say, okay, so.
No, and I mean, Darnell and I were laughing. So I think we got really shocked that you said that. So it was, but no,
I'm not. Here's the thing. I'm not shocked.
No.
This is the way that I love. I'm laughing because it is so typical to him. He teaches me to be honest and helps me to be okay and comfortable in my skin. He's crazy.
No, but I mean, that's craziness. I mean, before even getting to ask you all these questions, and I know it can be a little invasive, this interview process, right? Because you're not talking necessarily about your work. You're talking about a relationship that you both really cherish. So I really appreciate your openness and your honesty. And, I don't know, I think even before I got to do this, there was something about your connection with each other that was so apparent. Like, you didn't have to know all these details that you guys are revealing, but you can sense it and you can feel it. And that is the power, I think, that you two have. That whether you are together in a space or separate, there is something about the connection that you two have and the perception on social media and beyond that is so comforting for outsiders to know that, wow, that level of friendship, that level of love can exist. And not only can it exist, but it can go beyond just personal lives, and it can go into professional spheres and all that kind of stuff. So it's really affirming. And that's why, I'm really thankful that you all shared that. Now, I asked each of you to come up with a question that you want to ask each other, preferably something you've never asked each other before. So I'm going to send it over to Darnell to ask Wade a question he may have never asked him, and it's going to be broadcasted live.
Oh my gosh. So I told myself I would be totally spontaneous. I wouldn't write anything down. And now I'm sitting here and I'm like, oh my, I'm about to ask him questions. My question for Wade. Oh my goodness. Wade, what is your, right now, at least today, what would you say your biggest fear is?
I would say at this moment, my biggest fear is that I am not spending enough time with my mother. My mother lives in Colorado. I've been living in New York since 2005. And with the work that I do now, I don't know if that's going to take me back to Colorado, right? And I told her, like that maybe over the next 3 to 5 years before she turns 60, that I would like to move back to Colorado. And I don't know if that's just the place for me. I love her to death. I want to spend, her winter years together, but I don't know if I can survive living in Colorado. So that's probably my biggest fear, is like, how do I navigate my desire to want to be with her as she gets older, but then also my desire to be happy, and my family can be draining, as all families are. So how do I navigate that space? Yeah. So I think about that often. And she sent me a text probably a week ago saying that she wanted me there when she was 60, and I was like, how do I tell her that maybe I need to just move her here? But can she also survive New York City at 60, right? And then also, is it fair for me to uproot her out of her lifestyle? Like, I'm the younger one. Maybe I should be the one that's more flexible. I don't know. But that's probably my biggest fear. That's a good question.
Yeah, you did pick a great spontaneous question. And I hope your mother, I mean, I don't know if she watches your content when things are featured about you. I don't know. She may see this, so you may not have to tell her. She may see this and no, I don't know. But yeah, I'm glad my mother heard that. My mom's in the other room. Like, she's like, I'm in the kitchen. She's like in her bedroom, and like she's listening to you. And, like, that was like the perfect thing that I wanted her to hear, because I think our mothers often struggle to understand this work. And like, she's watched me be a journalist, and she's really proud that I'm doing that, but she doesn't necessarily always get the contents behind what I do. So I'm gonna play that for her, like, in about 2 or 3 years. Or like. Okay, Wade, ask now your question.
I had a couple of different thoughts in my head, but my brain is going to a different place right now. And I don't think I've ever asked Darnell this. If you weren't able to do social justice work, right? Because I think that is really what feeds you. If you weren't able to do that, and you had to work in a corporate environment, what would that look like? I'm really curious, because I've never known you to do anything but this, since forever.
So it's a great question. In my other life, I would probably be the buyer for somebody's clothing line, our department store, or running Mercedes Fashion Week in New York City.
Yeah.
The first thing I ever wanted to do, actually, when I graduated undergrad, but I didn't look. I sort of, this work, I feel like sort of God or the Spirit like pushed me into this. I was applying for fashion buyer jobs. I didn't even go to school for that, but that's what I wanted to do. Like, I wanted all of the new stuff. Like, I wanted everything first. And no one would call me back. Nobody was calling me back. And I was so upset. So I ended up going to Camden, working as an urban missionary for young people, 5 blocks away from where my mother lived. And I lived in a house with 14 other people from around the world, right? And I was so convicted that they moved from their locations to come to my hometown to do work for $30 a week, while I was trying to run away to go and buy, be a buyer for like bird dogs. So, but I had like, I'm like this sort of bohemian-esque artist type of. If I had like capital, I would be traveling the world. I'd probably open up a store and figure out a dope consignment shop. And maybe that's something I still can do. I really do have a love for not fashion in terms of the corporate sense, but I love style. Yeah, maybe styling. I thought about doing that recently. Like I'm surrounded by a bunch of people. I sort of do it by default anyway. Maybe that's my next move. Maybe I'll start a styling company.
Yeah, Darnell doesn't know that I jock something of his style pretty regularly. He doesn't see me as much as he do, so I jock something.
What do you jock? What is it that he does that you do?
So I have big thighs, right? So I've always been very jealous that Darnell could wear like skinny jeans, right? So I've been trying to find, because like it's a look that I've never had first of all, the confidence to rock. as someone who dealt with a lot of internalized homophobia, like I never wanted to be caught in tight clothing or anything that was like that fit my body. But I would see, you know, a Darnell would wear like some skinny jeans with some Jordans or something, and it looks very different when you wear oversized pants in Jordans. So I'm like, I'm gonna try that, you know. And like he could go into stores and just buy off the rack, and it used to piss me off, you know. like I can't stand his skinny ass, you know. So like he'll wear like a blazer with like a t-shirt and some Jordans and some jeans, but like roll the bottom of the jeans up. But when I try to do that, it don't look as good. You know what I mean? So I'll be like, man, this is some bull. So yeah, he should know. He'll wear something and I'll see it on Facebook, and I'll go to my closet and try a whole outfit on. It looks very similar, and take a picture, and it never looks as good. That's something I've never told him actually. Well, so there you go.
You know, I
so we're wrapping up this interview, and I don't want to keep you much longer, but I have to ask this last question. Wade, what does loving Darnell?
That broke up. The question broke up.
Oh, I'm sorry. I said, what does Wade? What does loving Darnell mean to you?
Yeah, I can't see you, but that's okay. Loving Darnell means that I love myself, and that is, of all the answers I've said, that was probably the hardest place for me to get to. You know, I really, really hated myself for a lot of years, and it's something that will always be a challenge for me. You know, I really didn't like the fact that I was gay. You know, as an athlete, as someone who couldn't see being an athlete and being gay and being black all just fitting, right? And loving Darnell means that I get to see someone who is my reflection, who is me, love themselves, and it really gives me the courage, it gives me the strength, it gives me it gives me the image of what that looks like, right? So I can look at Darnell, I can be a Darnell's brother, and I could practice that on myself. You know, I can be very forgiving, I can be gentle, because I used to be very hard on myself, you know. And Darnell knows this. Whenever I go on television or I do anything that's, I write an article, I don't read them. Like I don't watch myself on TV. Like I don't do that because I was so hypercritical of myself for a lot of years. So Darnell is able to mirror back to me like what loving yourself looks like, and not that he's perfect, but to me he is. You know. So I'm just yeah.
Yeah. Darnell, same question to you. What does loving Wade mean to you?
Loving Wade means it's an opportunity for me to empty myself of the sort of positive energy that I have. You know, it's the sort of real-time, actualized dawn of justice that I often theorize. Loving Wade is pouring into someone who is absolutely deserving of being poured into. I think the thing that I like to say too, Wade gives so much to so many people. So loving him is an opportunity to give him all of the things that he gives to me, that he gives to so many others. It's regifting. It's regifting. It's giving him back what he gives to so many others.
Wow, that was great. That's like very tweetable. That was awesome. So I want to say thank you so much. I'll just have some quick closing remarks. You can learn more about Wade and Darnell by visiting You Belong Initiative. I believe it's .org or is it .com. So youbelonginitiative.com. You can read more about that information on the description box below. Be sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at OnLovingMen. And our website's coming up soon, onlovingmen.com, is in the works. And be sure to like our Facebook page, also linked in the description box below. You can follow Wade and Darnell on Twitter and Instagram. Will also be in the box below. And I just want to say thank you to Darnell and Wade for making time to do this first installment of Love Logs. I think it's important that we keep having these conversations what it means to love each other, to be friends to one another, and to support one another's dreams. So thank you for showing us the power of friendship and what that can do to transform lives.
Thank you, Mark, for hosting us. I really appreciate it for the fun conversation.
We love you.
Love you too. Bye.
Bye-bye.